So for this quick and simple card, I'm going to be using the afternoon tea die set and the afternoon tea stamp set, as well as they coordinate. I'm going to be concentrating on just one of the stamps, and that is this one with the teacups and the flowers inside. That's absolutely beautiful. But first we need to use the dies, which is the different way to how we usually use a stamp and die set that coordinate. Usually we stamp and then we use the die afterwards. But for this one, I want to actually be die cutting the aperture for the stamp to go into afterwards. So just taking the outline there of this beautiful teacup image and placing it on a card base, just making sure that your card is the right way up. I'm going to place this on. I'm not worried. We do have dies that will cut out the insides of the teacup handles, sorry there, but we're not using those at the moment. Just going to tape this down like so and run that through the die cutting machine. But before we run it through, just make sure that you open it up so it only cuts through that first layer. So that has cut out that image for me, and I can release my die and very carefully release the low tack tape as well. So pop that away. Now what I want to do is just to pick out the outline of that aperture with a little bit of pale pink. So just taking this and brushing from the outside onto the outline of the card where that's die cut. Just picking up the very edge gently. It's very, very subtle, but it helps to add dimension to the card when it's finished. And I'm going to bring that pink effect around the edge of the card too, so we can close our card and just run that around the edge also. Now this pretty pastel pink, I'm going to be using a similar colour or similar shades into my stamped image as well, so everything will work well. If you want to do this outlining with your ink later on when you know which colours you've used for the stamped image, you can do that too. So the next step is to stamp into this aperture, and the easiest way to do that is to actually take a pencil and very lightly just draw through the aperture round into the background of the card. Don't worry if you go over the edges a little bit, because we're going to erase that afterwards. It's just to give you an idea of whereabouts your image needs to sit when you're stamping. So very, very rough outline. You can just about see that. So I'm just going to erase any marks off the front quickly. Shouldn't affect your inking too much. And then I'm going to use this as a guideline for stamping my teacups here that I've already got on an acrylic block. So add some ink. I'm using a black. And just looking through, go down into the lines that you've just drawn. I'm taking my time here. I'm just trying to line everything up and see whereabouts I need to stamp. There we go. Press down firmly all over and lift up. And then that should be perfectly in line with your aperture. So the next stage is to colour in these teacups. You can use lots of different ways of doing this. I'm actually going to use my pencils again. I'm not going to use any water this time. I'm going to keep them as quite strong colours because the front of the card is pale, so we need some strength to really jump out and make the card striking, even though we're using pastel colours. There we go. Now I'm going to take my eraser and just very gently go around the edge, trying not to erase any of my watercolour pencil marks, which is actually harder to remove than your pencil lines will be. There we go. So we've got the image that sits inside the card. The only thing left to do now is just to add on a sentiment. And we've got lots to choose from. So I think this one, hope your day is terrific, would be perfect. Onto the acrylic block, using the same colour ink as I used for the stamping in there to keep everything coordinated, and hug that quite close there. Beautiful.